Hello and welcome to Evidence Mastery. I'm your host, Dr. Massoud Toussi. Today, we're diving deep into something truly remarkable in the world of health research, the UK Biobank. And to really kick things off, let's start with a quote that just says it all. This is from Professor Sir Rory Collins, the project's principal investigator. He calls it a veritable treasure trove and expects it to have transformative results across the globe. I mean, that's a pretty bold claim, right? It really sets the stage for just how huge this thing is. So, here's how we're going to break it all down today. First, we'll look at what makes this such a revolutionary resource. Then, we'll peek inside the data itself. We'll cover how it's powering research globally, check out some major discoveries, and finally, touch on the challenges and what's next.
All right, so let's get right into our first section. To understand the ambition here, we first have to ask, what is the UK Biobank, really? At its core, think of it as a massive long-term health study. It's collected biological samples and a ton of health-related data from 500,000 people. And this is key, it's all de-identified, meaning personal information is stripped out to protect everyone's privacy. This creates this incredible resource for scientists everywhere to study how we can better prevent, diagnose, and treat all kinds of diseases.
And you know, the whole thing just wouldn't exist without the 500,000 volunteers who signed up. Between 2006 and 2010, these people from all over Great Britain generously agreed to let researchers follow their health for decades. It's a pretty amazing act of public spiritedness.
And when we talk about data, the scale is just mind-boggling. We're talking about over 30 petabytes of information. To try and wrap your head around that, that's thousands of times more data than you'd find in the entire U.S. Library of Congress. It's what makes this one of the richest health datasets ever put together. But here's what makes it so powerful. It's not just a snapshot in time. Nope, they've been following these participants for over 15 years now. And that's the magic right there, that long-term or longitudinal data. It lets researchers see how health and diseases actually develop over a person's life.
Okay, so we know it's big, but what's in it? Let's dive into the data treasure itself and see what kind of information we're actually talking about.
You know, the data collection didn't just happen all at once. It's been an evolution. It started back in the day with samples and lifestyle questionnaires, but then they started adding layers, like sophisticated MRI scans in 2014. And the real game changer? In 2023, they released the whole genome sequencing data for every single one of those 500,000 participants. Absolutely incredible. So what you end up with is this incredibly rich, detailed picture for each person. You've got it all. Biological samples, questionnaires about lifestyle, physical and cognitive tests, those advanced scans, plus it's all linked to their actual health records. On top of that, you have the whole genome and proteomics data. It's a complete 360-degree view of human health. Okay, so you have this mountain of incredibly detailed, sensitive data. The big question is, how do you let researchers use it safely and effectively? Let's talk about how they power global research. The answer is something called the UK Biobank Research Analysis Platform, or UKB RAP for short. Think of it as a super secure, cloud-based workspace. And this is the really clever part. Researchers don't download the data. They log into this environment and analyze it right there. This hugely reduces risk. Now, getting access isn't a free-for-all, and that's a good thing. It's open to legitimate researchers anywhere in the world, but there's a strict process. You have to register, submit your research plan for approval, do some mandatory training, and, this is really cool, you have to agree to put your findings back into the biobank, so the whole community benefits. And all of this is wrapped up in a super important ethics and governance framework. Basically, it's a set of rules that make sure every single research project is 1, related to health, 2, in the public's best interest, and 3, totally consistent with the permission that those amazing volunteers gave in the first place. All right, so we've got the data, we've got the platform, we've got the rules, but what's the payoff? What has all this work actually led to? Let's look at some of the landmark discoveries. Well, the impact has been massive. We're talking more than 30,000 researchers from over 90 countries diving into this data. And that has resulted in over 9,000 published scientific papers. That's 9,000 new pieces of knowledge. And the list of discoveries just goes on and on. And this chart is fascinating. It breaks down what those papers are about. A study back in 2020 found that a huge chunk, 61%, were about brand new discoveries. But look at the other end. Less than 1% was about clinically actionable precision medicine. It's a really important reminder that there's often a long road from a scientific discovery to something a doctor can actually use with a patient. But a project this huge and this important isn't without its hurdles. It comes with some serious responsibilities and challenges.
And number one on that list has to be security. A headline like this one from The Guardian is basically the nightmare scenario. Protecting all of this confidential information is an immense responsibility, and the threat of a breach is something they have to be thinking about constantly.
And it really brings us to a fundamental question for the entire field. As these datasets get bigger and even more detailed, how do we keep striking that delicate balance between giving scientists access to make breakthroughs while also absolutely guaranteeing, the confidentiality of the people who provided the data? So, let's wrap this up. The UK Biobank is without a doubt a monumental resource. It's built on the generosity of 500,000 volunteers and combines everything from genetics to lifestyle records. It's accessible through a super secure platform and has already led to thousands of publications. But it's also constantly grappling with the huge challenges of data security and that long journey from research to the real world. Now, if this deep dive was interesting to you and you want to learn more about the principles behind projects like this, I've actually gone into a lot more detail in my upcoming book. It's called Real World Data, Sources and Solutions, written by me, and it will be available on Amazon.com in December of 2026. Thanks so much for watching this deep dive on evidence mastery.